Enter the realm of KSBM radio's creation. Student-led from inception to narration. Crafting content from dawn until dusk. All students involved in the work and the fuss. In the heart of Townview where voices reside. Student-led discussions where ideas collide. From interviews with leaders, peers, and businesses. Just watch us work, creating innovative content. Every aspect managed with student finesse. From podcast production to social media press. No task too daunting, no challenge too grand. KSBM Radio, we taking a stand. KSBM Radio, students leading the way. Every task idea, we seize the day. Witness now as all of our efforts break through. KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Come closer to the music.
Broadcasting live from Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management, Dallas, Texas.
My radio station.
We are KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Hello everyone and welcome to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview. I'm Des here with my co-host,
Aram,
Richie,
Blossom.
and today we're continuing our SBM 50 and TMC 30 alumni series, celebrating Townview graduates making an impact in their careers and communities. Our guest today, Mr. Joshua Galicia, a proud graduate of the Business Magnet Center, class of 2005. Joshua earned his Juris Doctor from Texas A&M University School of Law and began his career as a criminal prosecutor. He now serves as an attorney at Brown Hofmeister LLP, focusing on civil litigation, representing cities and governmental entities. Joshua's journey shows how the skills earned at Townview, including marketing and communication, have helped him succeed even in the legal field. Mr. Galicia, welcome back to Townview. We're excited to have you here. Is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners before we get started?
well, first of all, thank you all very much for having me here. It's been a long time since I've stepped foot on this campus. So I'm ready to get jumping into this and see if I can impart any sort of knowledge or guidance onto anyone who listens to this.
so for our first question, what first drew you to BMC?
I think it was the quality of education that I thought I could receive here. Back in the day, I'm 13, 14 years old. I don't have much experience looking for schools. And so my mom was looking around to see what would be the best place to give me the best opportunities. And she found Townview, and she sat me down. We went over all the different schools that were in Townview. And ultimately, the one that drew me the most was the Business Magnet.
If you could go back, would you pick a different school?
I would not. Obviously, I am a lawyer. I am in litigation now. So some people might logically think, law magnet would be the best choice. But really, what I learned here at BMC or SBM, is a series of skills that I still use to this day, which have proved very, very useful and have helped me propel me to where I am now. So I wouldn't want to risk losing that by going anywhere else.
And when you first arrived at TMC, what kind of career did you imagine yourself pursuing?
Well, again, being 13, 14 years old, I liked Business Magnet, just generally speaking. I wasn't quite sure which path I wanted to take, be it marketing, advertising, entrepreneurship. But I do know that from looking into it, this school would give me the best series of options to choose from at that time.
And how did BMC prepare you for college life and your studies?
When you get to college, there are a huge variety of courses you can and usually will take to be able to graduate. The courses here really mimic that because you have your basic courses that you have to take per state law, English, science, history, all that. But also you've got the ones that are unique towards to BMC. So any one day you could be doing travel and tourism. Your next course is biology, and then you're going to fashion marketing, and then your next course is calculus. And that huge shift in the mindset can be a little bit jarring and takes some getting used to. But because I was able to do that here in high school, it wasn't a surprise for me when I got to college. And it was a natural transition from here to there. And I think that really helped me succeed in college and even into law school.
Were there any teachers or mentors that inspired you or influenced you?
For me, it was the environment as a whole. I had never been around people with my background before in a school setting. For middle and elementary school, my mom wanted me to find and get the best education. I grew up in Old East Dallas, and some of the schools there weren't the best, particularly in my specific area of East Dallas. So my mom sent me to a private school, but to do that, she had to work 2 to 3 jobs just to barely keep the lights on and get me there. And it was not feasible for high school. I mean, the private high schools are more than some college tuition education. It's just ridiculous. But she found this one, and it hit all the marks for what I wanted. And when I got here, it was really motivating and inspiring to see people come from my background, have access to all these resources, and using those resources to their maximum benefit. And it pushed me hard to see everyone like me trying to academically succeed. And the teachers were obviously also there helping to push us along and help guide us through this, because a lot of the stuff, first time I had internet was here in high school. First time I saw a computer that didn't run on DOS was in high school. There's a lot of brand new things for me when I got here.
Were there any extracurriculars that helped shape your high school time, like your time at high school?
Yeah, DECA 100%. That program was hugely influential to me during my time at Townview, BMC, but also beyond. There's different styles of learning. You always hear about auditory, visual, kinesthetic. I'm a kinesthetic learner. I need to get my hands on something. So hearing about marketing, advertising, entrepreneurship, everything like that from the teachers was one thing. Talking about it, reading about it was one thing. But actually being able to apply it to something like you do in for DECA, for the competitions, where you're creating businesses or whatever project you're doing, that it really allowed me to see how all the pieces fit, and also allowed me to find out where I was lacking certain areas, so I could either reach out to teachers or discuss it with my friends. And then there's obviously the travel going around the United States. First time on a plane was because of DECA, going to one of the competitions. Allowed me to see different aspects of the United States, different people, the networking and the communication that I got to do because of it was priceless.
Is there a favorite memory from DECA?
My favorite memory is not exactly a happy one, but I think it was very impactful. I think it was in 2002 when we had a competition up in New York. And it was during the fall semester. So we got there, and that was a year, maybe just over, after 9/11 happened. So we actually got to go to Ground Zero, and they were still clearing debris out from there, trying to figure out what they were going to do with that area. But around Ground Zero was a chain link fence, and on that chain link fence were hundreds, if not thousands, of notes, flowers, cards, candles, photos. It was a very somber experience, and one that kind of highlighted for me the fragility of life and the need to appreciate every moment. So I was there having a great time with my friends, working on a competition, trying to succeed, and I was able to do that because I was alive. And so it made me push myself that much harder to keep on trying and never stop.
Looking back, what's one lesson or habit you developed in high school that you still benefits you today?
Definitely prioritization. This one goes into what I was saying before about the different types of courses they offer here, but also in college. Prioritization is huge because as you progress in your academic career and then into your job and your working career, being able to do that is hugely important. But to be able to do that, you need to understand the context behind your tasks, and that's understanding the gravity of the task, how complex they are, what the deadlines are, and then being able to sort them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to maximize your time. The variety of courses here kind of pushed me to do that, along with balancing DECA, pushed me to do that earlier on so that when it came to college, it was easier. When it came to and to law school, it's easier. Now that I'm in my job now, I mean, it's 80% of what I do is just figuring out what I'm supposed to be doing next.
To transition into your college life, why did you choose to major in English with a minor in Spanish at UT Austin, and how do you think that connected to your future in law?
So to be perfectly honest, when I got to college, I was in finance. And then I quickly realized that was not for me. And so I switched into English and Spanish because I really wanted to develop my critical analysis skills. So you get into an English major, and it's basically all you're doing is you're reading. You're reading constantly, and you're reading a lot. And you're reading constantly and reading a lot because at your next class, they're going to be asking you a whole bunch of questions about that, and they're going to be delving into the why and the how and the context and referencing other texts, other books. And that's basically what law school and the legal field is. All you're doing is you're reading case law to determine what's the new controlling legal precedent. You're needing to read the judge's opinions, and often quickly, because you got to get an answer to a client. If there's new law coming out, you're going to have to reading 50, 60 pages of the law, and then looking into legislative history to figure out, well, why did they vote this way? That helps in interpreting the law and seeing if it's going to help your case, going to hurt your case, and then how to proceed accordingly. And all the English courses that I took helped me with that. And for the Spanish minor, well, I mean, I live in Texas. I want to make sure that I continue improving my Spanish because there's a huge clientele out here that don't speak English well, and I want to be able to help them out. I'm a government attorney, so obviously I deal with a lot of PD, fire, city council members, city managers, upper level staff. They all speak English, but a lot of their workers don't. So if there's something that happens, I want to be able to communicate with everyone at whatever level they are.
You began your career as a criminal prosecutor. What was that experience like?
I got really fortunate to start out as a city prosecutor. A lot of lawyers don't get trial experience, but I got lucky because as a city prosecutor, you get a ton of that. You get thrown into jury trials and bench trials basically immediately, and you just got to keep on going because you'll have multiple in a week. So it really helped develop my skills very quickly on trial procedure, but also on how to read a room and responding to it accordingly. Because when you got to get a jury of 6 people on there to hopefully see from your perspective out of a pool of like 40 people, you've got to pretty quickly figure out how to ask them questions to narrow down which 6 are going to be the best for you. And to do that, you got to know how to formulate your questions correctly and understand their responses to them. And I still use that to this day, being able to read rooms, being able to read people. That's an incalculable skill.
What motivated your shift from criminal law to civil litigation?
So criminal law is a lot of fun. You are under the gun the entire time. You're shooting from the hip. You have no idea what the opposing side is going to say at any one moment, and you have to be ready to shift on a dime. I became really good, like I said, at reading, but also negotiating. But none of that really involved a lot of motions practice. So, you go to law school and you learn all about these different procedures before trial, which is like 90% of a case. And I was very lucky to be able for, prior 7 years, have only practiced the 10% that a lot of people don't get to do. But I really wanted to do something in that 90%. And so I got out of that, and I really lucked into a civil litigation firm that does governmental law. So it still touched on what I did beforehand. But also I was able to really utilize my trial skills to help out with motions practice. Because if you know what to expect at trial, you know how to formulate your motions ahead of time to anticipate those movements from the other side or from the judge or what a jury may think.
Would you have done anything different?
I don't think so. I have been, as I've progressed up here, the biggest thing that all my new employers have said is we need someone with trial experience. It's harder and harder to find people who have trial experience. And so I wouldn't give that up, honestly. I would have done everything almost exactly the same as I did before because it's got me to where I am now, and I am very happy with what I am doing and where I am.
Can you describe a memorable or challenging case that shaped your perspective as an attorney?
So when I was a county prosecutor for Williamson County, everyone kind of developed their own specialties. My specialty was prosecuting animal cruelty cases. So I can't go into a lot of detail on this stuff because I don't want to specifically point out any of my old clients or anything like that or specific defendants. But there were some animals that were just horribly mistreated by people, and obviously they don't have a voice. You got to be there kind of defending for them and hoping that people can see it from your perspective. And I'm not doing that anymore just because the nature of the job it's not part of it. But that speaking for people who can't really be spoken for is still carried on now because now I'm doing it for, our clients are cities, and the cities have thousands and thousands of taxpayers who you don't speak to them, but you got to speak for them on certain things where you're kind of defending where their taxpayer dollars go to, or you're trying to fight any sort of law that's going to be hurting them in the long run.
So what skills or qualities do you think have been most important to your success as a litigator?
So like I said, reading people is hugely important. But I think one part of it also is at trial itself, it kind of feeds into the reading thing, reading people thing. And that's, marketing here at Townview. You learn what the target market is, analyzing what they need, and then responding to it. And when you're in trial, that's what you're doing. You're trying to market to the jury that your case, your perspective on the case is the right perspective. Even now in motions practice, a huge part of what I do when I'm drafting a motion is I look up the judge and how has he ruled on similar things? How long has he been on the bench? What did he say in certain opinions? So you can know what to expect from them, or what their mindset is. And if you know that mindset, then you know how to target your motions, you know how to target your arguments towards them. And that's a skill that I developed here, and it's been crucial for me now. And there's also the networking aspect of it. Like I said before, with DECA going across the U.S., meeting new people. I do public sector law, but it's a private firm. So we still have to do a lot of connecting with people to get clients and retain clients. And both those skills that I picked up here, I still use to great effect at my job.
Now transitioning to your present self right now,
Mm-hmm.
how do you stay motivated to keep learning and improving after already achieving so much in your field?
So the benefit and the burden of law is that it's always changing. Especially in the past few years, everyone's talking about what policies are out there, what laws are out there. And that's always changing, always something different that could affect your clients. And as an attorney, you've always got to be looking out for the best interest of your client. So to do that, therefore, you have to always be keeping yourself up to date. You never know what's going to change and when it's going to change it. So you're just constantly looking up opinions on higher level courts. You're looking at how judges are doing on stuff. Attorneys will talk to each other, say, hey, there's a new case that came out. It touches on this. I thought you need to know that. Honestly, the best version of yourself you can be is only the person you are that minute, because the next minute something could change. And that's what pushes me, is that I always have to be the best version of myself for my clients.
What professional or personal goals do you have for yourself currently, or are you working towards?
So in my job, we touch on a lot of everything. The one thing I haven't really done much of is constitutional law practice. So I wouldn't mind doing that. I have right now a lot of focus on property law, land use law. That's where a lot of my cases come from, contracts. But constitutional law, that's a whole other beast. And I wouldn't mind trying to get into that.
So kind of like going back from when you started this, like what you're doing now, do you see yourself where you are now? Or like, do you have other goals in mind?
I had different goals in mind. I actually kind of just fell into this. When I was looking to switch, like I said, I was in criminal law doing prosecution, so I always worked for the government. But I kind of lucked into this one because I was just looking for civil litigation, and it happened to be municipal law. But then when I got into it, I quickly came to realize that it touches on everything. I mean, there are people who will say, "Well, I want to do criminal. I want to do criminal law." Well, we got that, obviously. I want to do contracts. You do that. I want to do business associations. We got that. I mean, water law, property law, land use law, whatever kind of area of law you want to get into, there's about a 95% chance you're going to touch it here. And because of that, I touch on everything. And so I never get bored with what I'm doing. And so I love every second of what I do.
Do you have other goals in mind from when you first started?
I was thinking about intellectual property law, trademarks, copyrights, patents, and that's still a pretty fun one. I would have liked to get into that. Now, would I want to go back and change it? Probably not. I love this too much.
And what are your goals for the next 5 to 10 years in your legal career?
So kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about the best version of yourself is who you are that minute, and the next minute you're going to have to improve. I want to help other lawyers do that. So I'm trying to develop right now different presentations to provide at conferences, do speaking engagements, because that not only improves them, but in me having to make the presentation, I got to be better. And so it's very much just a whole circle of I make them better, and then they make me better, and they do the same thing with their stuff, and then they'll do their own areas of law, and we all work together to push ourselves. And so if I can become more directly involved in that, I think that'd be a great way for me to contribute to my fellow attorneys.
Are there any practices that you would want to get into alongside public sector law?
Well, like I said, public sector law, specifically municipal law, touches on everything already. So if I want to get into another area of law, I can just go to one of my clients and say, hey, you got something going on. And more than likely, it's going to be some new aspect I hadn't thought of before, some new area of law. So that's, again, the huge benefit of doing this is I might just be a phone call away from a new area of law.
How do you hope to make an impact within your firm and your community?
So I am very fortunately placed to do both at the same time, because if I'm serving my firm, then I am serving the community, because my firm services the cities and the cities service the citizens. And so the better I do for my firm, the better I do for my clients. The better I do for my clients, the better I do for my clients' citizens. So I'm in a very unique position to already do that right now. And I think the best thing I can do to continue to make an impact is to be better.
I have a question. Earlier you mentioned constitutional law. How does that one work?
The most common way it works is a lot of police cases. So you get search and seizure cases, Fourth Amendment law. You get excessive force cases. You get cases where the city's developing a certain way, and so they're going to they need a certain property to take for that to develop, or you've got stuff where if you have a house that's really run down. I guess it's a really good example of this right here. A house was run down a few years ago. Cities could have a board where they'd say, all right, that house is really messed up. We're just going to knock it down. And a board for the city would determine that. Now you can't really do that because a case came out a few years ago, a Supreme Court case called Dallas versus Stewart, which basically said those opinions can be challenged in a court of law. And so basically those boards completely lost their teeth. And if a city moves forward with a board's decision to knock down a house, they could be opening themselves up to what's called a takings claim, which is a constitutional claim where they're basically owed money for the value of their property because their property rights were infringed upon. And so I think that's the most common way to hear about constitutional law is through takings claims or a lot of property rights, because that's a huge thing, especially here in Texas. So, I mean, there's a number of other ways, but I think those are the most common ones.
Okay, now time for our signature question. If you can go back to your high school self, what would you say? What advice would you give to yourself?
So I did pretty good in high school. But one thing I didn't quite do is I didn't push myself beyond what I thought I could handle. High school is an amazing opportunity to just fail. As long as you're failing because you did more than, you bit off more than you could chew. High school is very much a foundation for your future. Everything you're going to be doing from this point forward, from high school forward, is based on, especially here, because of all that BMC offers, is built off of that. And to have a strong enough foundation, sometimes you got to figure out what you can do, because one of two things is going to happen if you push yourself beyond what you thought you could handle. Either you figured out you can handle it, and now you know moving forward, hey, I can do more than that. Let me just keep on going. Or you fail and you figured out a limit. Or, I mean, even if you fail, you still figured out, well, I failed, but I still did more than I thought I could originally do before I even took it on in the first place. So now is the time to go ahead and make those mistakes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joshua Galicia, for sharing your story with us. Your story shows the value of hard work, adaptability, and applying the lessons you learn in school to real-world challenges. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. This conversation is just the beginning of our SBM 50 and TMC 30 alumni series, celebrating graduates who continue to create change in their communities and beyond. Be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe so you won't miss our next episode. Until next time, this has been KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Stay awesome.
Thank you for listening to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
My radio station.
We hope you enjoyed the great content and great discussion, all from a student's perspective. Make sure to follow us on Twitter for the latest updates at KSBM_TVT or on Facebook at KSBM Radio.
Add them on Facebook.
Check them on Facebook.
Take care.